My name is Saul Valencia. I am 36 years old from Oceanside, California. I drive a 1972 Datsun 240Z, nicknamed Orange Crush. This is my AutoBio.
Mrs. Me Rice. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. Yeah, we're lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page, but we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 No time to chill, don't sweat it. My driving overdrive, this is overtime. Let me finish mine. You don't see the signs, but every line I see is the finish line. I've been working real damn hard, but work only gets you so damn far. See, my mindset is on my progress. Every foot I take is just another step. They say practice makes perfect, but aren't you perfect if you always practice? I'm just trying to give you ideas how different things can make you accomplish, like walking on the moon. You believe it or you don't, I will never choke. One in on the wheel, one in on the shift. Like addicted smokers, I will never quit. Push me to the edge and I'ma fly on out. Push me down the path and I ain't crying loud. Got a lot of things playing on my brain. Got a lot of people saying it's okay. Guardian angel helping me escape. Lion is born and it was never made. Don't ever plan on following steps. I plan on being that one chase. Walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Mississippi racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night.
So what is your story? How did you get to where you are today?
So all this began from when I was like really young. You know, my grandpa was a big influence in my life. We grew up with no dad. My mom was like our dad in a sense. We had a lot of different father figures, but they were in and out of the picture. And but my dad was always, my grandpa was always there when I was younger. And it was in Mexicali, Mexico, which is down by Calexico, down there in a really hot desert area, you know. And even as a little kid, I mean, I looked up to him. He's the one that kind of, you know, took care of me, was kind of like my dad, you know. And he was always into cars. So every time he was working on a car, like he had this old van, like I want to say like an 80s, early 80s GMC or Chevy van, like a Astro van, but it was not really an Astro van, like a panel van, you know what I mean? And he was really proud of it. You know, that was his car, and he always had a Chevy 350 in it. So he was always doing like tune-ups on it. He was always working on it, and I would always, you know, go help him. Or, you know, I was a little kid, like maybe, you know, started 6, 7 years old, and then, you know, 10, 11, I always hung out with him. And, you know, he was always working on cars. And that's what kind of drove my passion, you know, to kind of get into the car, you know, loving the car scene and all that. And there's kind of a funny story. When I was younger, you know, my grandpa always told me, oh, you know, if you're up there helping me out, like give him the tools, I would, you know, hey, I need this. Hey, mijo, necesito, dame el wrench or something. You know, I would give it to him and kind of learn my tools then, you know. But there was this kind of not funny, but funny story was my uncle was, my tío Jose was working on the car too, and he was underneath the car. And when we lived in Mexico, there was like you drove into the embankment, like to the front of the house, and it had a hill, right? So you put it in park, or you would put a block just in case a car, back in the day, won't roll down, right? So I'm inside the car, and my grandpa goes, "Hey, don't mess with the lever, or don't move with that." I was younger at that point, and my tío goes too, "Hey, don't be messing around with that car up there. I'm underneath the car, And I was like, "Oh yeah, I won't do nothing, right?" So I'm up there and I'm like moving the steering wheel. And, "Hey, what do you guys? Oh, I'm just moving the steering wheel." Okay, and blah blah. I'm pretending I'm driving and like little kid stuff, right? But I remember this. And one of those things, I grabbed the lever and I was pretending, but in one of those it was worn out. The lever's worn out on the shifter. You just hear, click 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 click, and the car starts rolling, and it caught the block, and I was like, okay, but it kind of slowly creeped over the block, and I hear, hey, and I was like, and I'm in the car holding on, and I just hear, go boom, and I'm backing down, and it goes all the way in the middle of the street, and my uncle is laying on the road going, luckily my uncle was okay. I just took the air out of him, but you can imagine a car going over him, and I got the worst butt whooping that day. But obviously I learned after that, so it was a funny story, but it was memorable because obviously I remember that. And but my uncle's okay, he's all right, he still remembers this story. And but from there it was just like the influence I had with cars at a younger age with my grandpa that kind of geared me towards getting into automotive. From there, obviously, my mom, moved to El Centro, to give us a better life. She's a single mom, and mind you, I have 3 other siblings. So I have my brother, my younger sister, and another sister, kind of the middle sister. So at this point, we're all together. So she's trying to provide, trying to do the best she could. And by that time, I was 12 years old when we were in El Centro. And that's when my grandpa, he was already kind of sick. He had like heart attacks. He'd had heart attacks. And so, he was already old. Not that old. He was like around 60, 62, 63. And we got this news that, when my mom went to work, my grandpa would kind of take care of us, so I was always around him. And he got sick, and it was like kind of the winter time down there, and it was like, I guess he caught like a cold, but then it turned into like a pneumonia. And from there, obviously, he was already down in Mexicali, because that's where he lived. He would come across. And, we heard he was in the hospital, not doing so good. And I remember, this, like, pretty crazy is we're driving on the way to the hospital, and as we were driving over there, I was remembering my mom had like a Ford Explorer. We were driving over there, and I got like a sudden flashback of all the memories that me and my grandpa shared, like, which was, when my first taste of beer was with him when I was a little kid. That car incident. When he took care of us, when he, would take us, have fun with him, like, joke around with him, like, all that dad stuff that was attributed to him, or my growing up or my upbringing, and all that in a split second, all those flashbacks came in my head. I was like, well, that's weird. Like something happened. And we get to the hospital probably like 10, 15 minutes later. And, hey, I want to see my grandpa, like, what's going on? And what was crazy is that, they had told me, oh, no, and my mom at the time came up to me and just gave me a big hug and was like, hey, your grandpa's passed away. He's in a better place. And, at that point, it was just like, it hit me, like, I kind of felt it when that flashback, something went wrong, and to this day, when I asked my mom, like, what time was it or whatever, it was literally like 15 minutes when we got there. That 15 minutes when I had that flashback was when he passed away. And that was like real trippy for me to, but that's how, I feel like maybe that's how connected we were, that, that was a way of him saying goodbye or something. And, but to this day, like, he's always been like my, like somebody that I've always looked up to. that's I think made me the man that I am, as well as my mom. My mom was like the rock of um, of the family. She had to bust her butt and work all these jobs to kind of provide, and from there, when we were in El Centro, we moved to from El Centro to San Diego, which was like big city, and the big city was, I think we went to Mission Valley, and that's where we kind of moved in first, and went to middle school there, and I always was into like the car scene then, like kind of like the cars, and I saw them, but I was still young, 12, 13, starting at 14, and I did football, and I was into sports, and then and kind of with the start of like the Fast and the Furious movement, like, so that's when like street racing was going on, and I lived by that time obviously from Kearney Mesa, Mission Valley. We moved to Mira Mesa. Mira Mesa is like predominantly like Filipinos, Asian, and so they were, we were like the minority, wider. Everybody, Mexicans were the minority there, and everybody was into like the cars, racing there, and that was like a popular spot, like the Firehouse, or they would go on the Kearney Mesa, Kearney Villa Road, and that's where they would race, And so I was like, I got my license, I got my 300ZX, and turbo, and so I started tinkering with the car. Learn, like, obviously that's the car I started learning on, hey, I want to put an intake or whatever, and I would see there was a plastic box. I was like, you know what? Just take that plastic, put a metal tube, and put a filter on it, and you could hear the turbo motor. Like, oh, that's my first mod, Oh, later I can cut the exhaust and take the resonators out and put a straight pipe, get the sound and do all that. So I was started tinkering with that, and I would take it out, go driving, and there were some buddies around the corner where I lived in Mira Mesa that were they were into cars as well, and so I remember we went to they would work on their cars. Sometimes I would see them outside. Hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, what's up, man? Oh, I'm from over here. Oh, yeah, come over here. And they had a Pontiac Trans Am, So it was like the first LS, LS1, 2001, and so like those were the hot cars, V8, big power, blah blah blah. By that time, I had my 300ZX, and I modded it and fixed it, and then I made the dumb mistake of selling it because I was like, hey, I want something newer, blah blah blah. So I ended up selling it for, it was ridiculous. I sold it for like $1,500. It was nothing, and that was that's gonna be my down payment because I wanted to get a new car. I wanted the new Subaru that came out. So I was like, all right, and I sold it, and I used to work at I was like, because my mom was like, oh, if you want a car and you want a responsibility, you got to work. That was the first thing she taught us. You got to work hard for your money. You got to work and either get educated or bust your butt, so you can make a living, So I was already working and doing school and sports and trying to juggle all that stuff, right? And so I ended up selling the car. And from there, I used the money to buy a WRX. So I put a down payment. I was paying making the down payment. I put the down payment and then started working. I worked at Red Lobster, and that was like a busboy, and working as a busboy and kind of getting tips and whatever, and that's how I was paying my car. So at that point, I had a Subaru, and then from there, I was like, oh, it's already turboed. It's already all-wheel drive. They're fast, and the mods and blah blah blah. So back to the story where I started getting into like kind of going to the street races was my neighbors were like, oh, hey, he's like, yeah, we go to the races over here, and you want to come? He's like, yeah, I didn't know where it was. I was like, yeah, that's fun. He's like, yeah, if you want to go with us, and so I went with them, my Subaru. I just saw the whole scene. It was pretty much like Fast and Furious. They park on the side, and then people were like waving them down. Oh, I'm racing. And it's so exciting, an adrenaline rush, and then I went up and raced, and it was just like that was like back to that I like to speed, the fast and all that. And there's another time where they were working on their car, their Trans Am, and it's my friend John, and we just recently connected on social media again. It's been a while. He moved to Arizona or something, but it was always a story I shared with everybody because it was it was pretty crazy. So they were working on their car, and he had a Trans Am, but his buddy who was in the military bought another Trans Am. John took the Trans Am to get a nitrous kit put on, professionally get a nitrous kit put on. 100 shot of nitrous. So so his buddy came and was like, I have the same Trans Am. He's like, hey, we can probably do it together, or I would just copy what's on my car, and put it on this car, right? That's what they thought, right? So yeah, I helped them put the nitrous kit. They had to put a window switch, because the window switch would be, so like it would only spray, because it was automatic. It would only spray when you have full throttle and it was activated, right? It wasn't like a button like you see on Fast and Furious. You could do it that way, but it's better to have a window switch because you know you're at full throttle, right? So we installed all that, ran the lines, and it was fresh. Like, they didn't even mount the NOS tank in the back. The seat in the back was still not even in. And, you know, they put the bottle, ran it through the front into the car, and, hey, we got nitrous. Let's go try it out. You know, this guy wants to race, this fast Honda, right? He's like, hey, Saul, you want to come? I was like, oh, it's late. I have to go to school. Like, you know, they're older than me, right? Oh, come on, you know, let's go. And so, like, I went home and, you know, hey, good night, Mom. All right, I have to go to school tomorrow. Went in my room and I snuck out. Went with them. And mind you, I'm in the back seat with no seatbelt, no nothing back there. You know, we go race this guy. We get to the point racing this. It's Honda. Gets off the trailer, slicks on it. You know, we're like, oh, damn, like, this Honda's no joke. You know, turbo and all this. And we're like, okay, you know, that's okay. You know, we're going to race this Trans Am. So we pull up. I'm still in the car, mind you. My friends in the front, they have seatbelts. I don't. I'm in the back, and we're like, they race, smoke them without nitrous. Like, we beat them. We're like, oh, VA, like, oh, he's like, oh, I have to turn down my tire pressure. You know, I'm not sticking, I'm slipping. Oh, okay, cool. We run again, smoke them again. And we're like, okay, what's going on? Like, it's fast. Oh, okay, we start giving them car lengths. We tell the guy, okay, we'll give you 2-3 car lengths. Beat him, still like kind of like beat him, and he's like, oh, he's getting mad. And everybody's like, oh, you know, blah blah, and they're like, oh, okay, well, for some money, blah blah blah, this and that, and they're like, okay, and so, mind you, I've been in the back seat. Finally, my friend and John goes, hey, you know what? Why don't you? I'll sit this one out, and he's like, you could go with him. I was like, oh, okay, well, I get out the back seat. Luckily, okay, he gets out. I get in the front seat. I buckle up, do everything. We give this guy like 6 car lengths. It was ridiculous. At that point, you're like, okay, what the race, you know? 6 car lengths. And everybody's like, oh, you know? So at the end of there was a cul-de-sac at the end of this road that we were racing on. So at the end of, like, where there was a light, somebody had the car with the lights on, that kind of marker of the quarter mile, right? Oh, you pass that guy, okay, slow down, and then come around the cul-de-sac, go back out, right? So we start going. You know, 6 car lengths, and he turns on the nitrous. He's like, okay, we're gonna, you know, nitrous is gonna spray now. 6 car lengths, obviously, the guy, Honda's over here, we're over here, sprays, and then just sprays, and you just hear, and we just take off. Boom, I'm like, whoa, and then we're looking like 160, 170, like going, and we're like, whoa, you know, and I was like, the light, you can see the light coming, we're supposed to stop, and we pass it, and I'm like, hey, are you stopping? Hey. And we're at the end of the cul-de-sac. At the end of the cul-de-sac was dirt and bushes and everything. Go right through the cul-de-sac, hit a hill about this high, hit it, airbags deployed. We Dukes of Hazzard over like 50 feet of bush, land, you know, smoke, the nitrous bottle breaks off and it's spraying inside the car. And it's like a whole fiasco. And the guy gets out, he's like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, the airbag hit me and like messed up my wrist for a little bit. And then he gets out, hey, dude, get out. Luckily, we get out. Everything was like, we were fine, you know, just my neck, my wrist was, and then just from the shock. And everybody comes and they're like, oh my God, you guys all right? And we look back and it was like 50 foot of bush that we cleared. And that his motor was all pushed in, all messed up. The car was done. And I was like, dude, if he wouldn't have told like me to get out and get on the front seat, like I would have probably flew through the windshield. I don't know what would have happened, but that was like a memorable thing, like that, like adrenaline and like, you know, oh, you know, that was like, you know, that was crazy, you know. And even then, obviously got scared, but I was like, whoa, like you're young and you're like, yeah, you know. From there, like, you know, after that, obviously that was like a story that happened, one of the stories that happened. And from there, obviously we're still in Mesa. All the Fast and Furious is going on, fixing up my cars. I'm working, doing exhaust, my own stuff, you know, working on cars and finding ways of how to make it look nice. I was more of the mechanical side, you know. And my brother later when he stepped into the picture got more up to the paint and body stuff, and I was more the mechanical side. And I've always like getting cars, make them fast, or upgrades that we can do or whatever, right? So from there, from Mira Mesa, we moved to from Mira Mesa. I finished high school there, graduated there, and from there I went to college. So my next best thing was like college. Like, what do you want? What do I want to do? It's like, well, I love cars. What's like? There wasn't no automotive like geared trade school back then. But I was like, I want to work on cars. Somehow I want to work on cars. What's the best thing? Like engineering. I was like, well, engineering, because I could learn how to engineer something or parts or something I thought was geared towards that. So I went to San Francisco State, and I went to school out there, and I got into the engineering school classes. I was doing the engineering classes, went through all that, and it was all good, and I was interested. But then some of the stuff like the math, and it was crazy amounts of math and this, and that was like, what does that have to do with cars? Like that has, but now that I look back, I was like, it has a lot to do with everything's like measurements and, right specifications for stuff, all that. But I was like, you know what, I want to do into cars. And then I kind of fell into partying and this and that. And from there, like, it's like, I want to do something else. Like, what else can I do? And at that point, my mom, was back here, and she was always business savvy. She she was always working different jobs, and she was a hustler. That was her mentality, and that's how she brought us, brought us up to be, And so she goes, hey, I got this opportunity to buy this upholstery shop that's the guy's just pretty much just selling me like the equipment, and he wants to be done with it, and it'd be a good opportunity. You like cars, and he does upholstery for cars, and he does furniture and all that stuff, but that's what I can do. But your car stuff, that's what you like, And my mom was always thinking of us, She wanted to better us and do the best that make us successful, And so she's like, I'm gonna get this business, blah blah, and then when she told me that, I was like, you know what? What's the next best thing? Business, So I switched over my major to business administration and kind of learned the business aspect of it, and then that's how I can apply it to the cars. How I like it. Hey, we can have a shop. We can start with upholstery, and then later we can start doing paint and body. And then later we can do mechanical, because that's what I love. And, that's what I want to focus on. So I focused on that, got my degree in business, and then I moved back down here, and that's where we're here in Oceanside. And then from there we started in like 2006, 2007. That's when we kind of established it. And then that's when we came up with the name SOS Upholstery. And kind of the name, how it came about was, SOS was like, oh, save our souls, or it meant kind of help, right? So you need help with upholstery, SOS Upholstery, that kind of. But in the background, it was, how SOS came about. We're like, that's our names, and it was a family business. So it was my mom, Sandra, my brother, Oscar, my name's Saul, my sister, Sarah, and my sister, Sandra. So all the names are on there, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the play on the name. And then from there, like we started doing like mostly the upholstery, but we started going into like the cars. The Fast and Furious kind of still going. Hey, how can we promote our business back in the day? And back in the day, we used to like film, and I look back at that we should have kind of kept it going, but we stopped for a while. Is that we would film on our phones or whatever, and my mom was like, "What are you guys doing?" Or blah blah, and we would film like go to the car shows or what did you do? Oh, I changed the upholstery. We had to take this apart, and that was like kind of like the movement of like then later like YouTube started, but we never kept it going. We kind of lost it. We just focused on the business and growing it, and so we started doing upholstery and would fix up our own cars, go to car shows. Me and my brother, and that's kind of where my brother kind of stepped into it. He was more of he was still going to high school. He went through some times like bad influences and stuff like that. My mom sent him away to like a boarding school, and I think it all had to tie it into like not having a father figure, like kind of have. My mom only did the best she could, and I was trying to kind of step in as a big brother, but kind of help, hey, hey, that's not the right way to do it, blah blah. I try to do the best I could, like when I was in school, like no drugs or be an athlete, or try to get good, honor, on the honor roll and do all that. Try to be the best I could, but obviously, everybody has their own ways of dealing with stuff or maybe learning. Like I always tell him, and he knows. Like I can tell him, Oscar, that's gonna burn you. It already burned me. Don't do it. No. He has to do it so he can learn for himself that, hey, it does burn. You know what I mean? Or that's just the way he is, and I love him for that. That's the way it is. And so later it came about where, I was in the business for a couple years, and then from there he graduated high school, went through multiple things in high school, and finally graduated, got it done, and I was like, well, best thing is jump into the family business, And I think I remember he went to like this first job, like I think he went to like Olive Garden to kind of like his first job, right? I don't think he lasted there a couple days. He was like, I'm done. And he came on to work with us, you know what I mean? And then from there, like we shared that same passion with cars, you know what I mean? And I remember my mom, what she kind of got us into the car scene was, obviously I had my Subaru and like, that was my baby. I never wanted to sell it. I never wanted to, do anything like that. Like they don't want to sell it or get rid of it. But yeah, and I was like, you know what? But at that time, like me and my brother were living together. Like we started the business, and he came into the business, and we're going to car shows, building up the business. We started adding paint and body. We started with upholstery, but paint and body, mechanical stuff, and we were a small shop, and started adding all that stuff little by little, and grew our name. Started doing like jobs for like really cheap, just to kind of get our name out there. And my mom, I remember, she bought us a Bug, like a 72 Bug. My brother had like an older one, like a 64 Bug, and that was like, she's like, I got you guys this car. Like you guys are doing good. Like this can be your car that you kind of learn on it, paint it, upholstery, and flip it and make some money. And so she taught us, hey, get your bike. I remember I painted mine was like blue metallic and with the white and blue interior, and I put like a Stinger exhaust, super loud, obnoxious exhaust. And she told me, hey, you have to keep your expenses low so you can make the most of it, and sell. Got it for like a couple $1,000s and flipped it for double, and that was like our first like, oh wow, our flip, like. And my brother got his Bug and he fixed it up nice too, and he flipped it, and I think he had like a Lincoln Town Car before, like a 90s with like dubs on it, and he fixed it up, and that was like the whole thing, like back in the day, and taught us that, like that life lesson of hey, you make money too, like in different avenues, like that hustler mentality, and so we sold our cars, and that's how we kind of got into it, and then it started evolving, like we started doing more upholstery, and it got busy, and the shop was too small for us. And then from there, like, we had to make the decision of like trying to find a shop that would, that can be big enough to like house the cars and, how busy we were getting, right? And this was, mind you, probably 10, 11 years ago to this date, kind of, that we were here still in Oceanside, but it was maybe like 3 miles away. And we came about to this location. And this used to be an old body shop, Lens Auto Body, back in the day. And we were good friends with, to this day, Lens. And we did their upholstery work and some other stuff for like their insurance claims and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, we're cleaning up shop. Like the people that are our tenants are bad. And, hey, if you guys have this opportunity to move into this place, I think I have plenty of room for you guys. We're like, oh, let's go check it out. And I mean, compared to the small shop, like a 2-bay shop, to this location, it kind of scared us. We're like, whoa, like that's a big shop, But my mom was like, hey, you guys have been doing it. We've been growing as a business. You guys can do it. Let's get in it. And obviously the rent was double, and like so all the expenses were like higher. Where I was like, okay, well, hey, the only way we're gonna know is just jump on in, right? And so we started the business, and we obviously started taking in some restorations, and that's what we're kind of known for. We did a lot of bugs, like old school bugs, and a lot of like old school restoration. We did new cars too, but kind of that's where we kind of started, old school restoration, And then from there, like I went through different cars. My brother went through different cars that we built along the way. Like I've had like 69 Cutlass convertible that I restored, to like a 91 SC300 with a 2JZ swap. I had a 72 Datsun 510s. I had 2 of them that had a SR20 swap, and I painted them, did upholstery, roll cage, all that stuff. I had like 3 motorcycles. I used to ride motorcycles, and I would fix them, like crash ones, fix them and sell them. And then just different cars, old school, new cars. I had like a new BMW M3 that we got crashed. Like it was a hardtop converter, like a '08 a couple years ago, and that was like one of my biggest investments. Because the car was like, they're like $40,000 cars. And I had to like save some money, and that's when I kind of like, when this happened, when we moved into the shop, I had to make the decision of like, me and my brother, like, we're living together, and then like we're young, we can maybe let's try to get a house together. So like my mom helped us out, and then I was like, let me sell my Subaru, which it was my baby, but maybe I'll have some money that I can put down on a house. So all this kind of like all happened, like we bought a house together, we lived together, and and then obviously instead of throwing the money to like apartments or whatever, like, hey, this is another investment, right? So we got a house, and then we, at the same time, like during the same couple months, we got this shop. So everything was like, kind of moving, and so I was scared, but like, hey, we got to push through it, and so we did it. And along the way, we went through a lot. We flipped cars, my brother, I did, my mom, my sisters kind of got involved too, doing it. It was a family affair, and so from there, like, we started adding like more. Now we had a bigger shop, we had more mechanic lifts and everything, doing swaps, doing paint and body. We had more 2 booths now, bigger lifts, upholstery. We had a whole range, and now that's why kind of we separated and started like the SOS Customs and SOS Upholstery. So to kind of separate everything, so the custom would be more of the automotive side of it, interior, the paint and body, the mechanical, and then SOS Upholstery with my mom was more of the furniture, interior design stuff, government jobs, big jobs. Where she did a lot of like big patios, furniture and seats, and like hotels, restaurants. We did like doing Amtrak seats, doing like Camp Pendleton, like all their like barracks and stuff like that, that my mom was just like, hey, go get her, like do it, and to this day, like she's the rock of, like, she's really ambitious. And that's what she kind of instilled in us, and to this day she still is. Oh no, now we have SOS Catering, which is like a company that does like food, and so she always liked that. So I think kind of like as she grew through it, like obviously upholstery was like her stepping stone into like eating other stuff. Like she loves upholstery too, because she loves to remodel stuff, she likes to restore furniture, she likes staging stuff. That's her like niche. She loves that, And then obviously the food aspect too, like growing up Hispanics, it was like the Mexican food and the recipes that her grandma passed on to her, and all our family. And so like she wants to kind of create that and kind of portray it through our business. Now SOS Catering, like she has a food truck now, so maybe like as that kind of takes off later, maybe get a restaurant and just kind of different stuff. She's so ambitious, and I love her for that. But sometimes we're like, Mom, too much. But hey, we love her for that, and it's just like from there, it kind of like as we evolved, now kind of coming up to this point, obviously I did a lot of cars, like I had 510s that were really nice, Cutlass convertibles, I have a Mustang that I have to restore here, but like this car, the Datsun, where it really comes into play was kind of like the whole embodiment of kind of like my career of building cars. Like I grew up with muscle cars, and like the Fast and Furious scene, like blowers sticking out of a Charger and all that, and going to like SEC racing, like where they had a Qualcomm, they had like little drag racing to see different cars and different stuff, and I always liked the Datsun. It was kind of like my 300Z Turbo, but this was like the grandfather of it. You know what I mean? This was like the original one, independent suspension, big motor in the front. They use them for track. They raced them, back in the day. There's a lot of heritage with the Nissan, and the one things I remember seeing too was that a lot of back in the day they used to have these Datsun, but they were all dragged out, drag racing. and they had like Chevy 350s in them. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, back in the day, or like I've seen, obviously they would put RB swaps, or 2JZ swaps and keep it more Japanese, right? But with me, I was like, you know what? I want to do something different or find something like a V8. Combine Japanese muscle with American muscle. What's the best of both worlds? The car and with the V8 motor. And it can fit, and I was like, you know what? Now with all this new, instead of an old 350, LS1s and all those were like into play, like, LS3s now, there's the LS, they're more, it's a newer technology. It's replacing the Chevy 350 with LSs. Everybody's LS swap or Coyote swap something because it's a newer motor. There's, a lot of support for it, so it's good. And so when I started looking for this car, 240, it came about where this guy had the car. It used to be like yellow, and it already kind of had the stuff for the swap. So it was like, oh, I don't have to buy a motor. It's already kind of like in there, but it still needed a lot of work. It's a project, I think it like ran out of funds or tired of it, just want it gone. And I was like, dude, LS, the turbo, I can turbo at this. Datsun, like, that's the best thing, is like, what can I do, And so from there, like, that was kind of like, like I want to build this to kind of represent SOS or the shop or something. Like, we build so many cars for customers, and we would build cars for ourselves and flip them. But there was like something that's kind of wild that stands out or something, that catches people's eye or something, And so me and my brother kind of talked about it. I was like, yeah, that's a good, like, that'd be a cool build, And SEMA was coming up like the year that, because I've had this car now for maybe 4 years now. And so SEMA back then, I was like, hey, I want to get into SEMA, and I showed pictures of getting it there, and I debuted it. I remember at Extreme Auto Fest was my first car show that I debuted it. And, when we got the motor running, it was like a struggle, like everything's so tight, to fit in the car. So like, I had to fit the headers right, there's exhaust leaks, or there's this, and the oil and the turbo, and, tuning it, and, the wiring was off. And, from there I was like, what can I do to make it different? Instead of just buying the little flares that they offer, do a wide body, but like a molded wide body. So I did like the metal flares, welded them and made it like, wider so I can stick a bigger tire. I mean, it's like a 275 in the back. So it's a big 15, almost like a slick you can put back there. And just to kind of give it a different look from just like the ones that have like, just like the riveted style wide bodies or like flare kits, something different. So I did that. And then, I remember always seeing Datsun in like, the normal colors. There was like a yellows, there was orange, there was greens, there was, whites and different stuff, I was like, but orange, I never done like a wild color. Orange, obviously, it's already like a wow with the motor and the this, and with the wide body, it's like a wow color, So we went with like a orange to match like the original kind of orange Datsun, but we modified the formula with adding pearl, like a gold pearl so like a 3-stage. So in the sun, it's like an orange 3-stage of like a Lamborghini, that Lamborghini orange that has like a gold pearlescent in it. And so like, to kind of wow it some more, some bright paint, metallic, turbo, this, that. And once we did it, everybody was just like, it was like a wow thing. Like everybody's, oh man, that's crazy. Like it's a car. And then, I got a lot of like, like people that wanted to, do videos and that was never like, I always saw customers' cars that we built for them, and it'd be videos and, oh, SOS built it, but never like us, like that's SOS's car, or that's, and so that was like the one thing that, me and my brother kind of, wanted to do, and we kind of brought this together with this car, was the wow, like, oh, and I got offers like from Super Street magazine shot this car. So it was in a magazine, a bunch of articles, Speed Hunters. There was Nitto was one of my sponsors for my tires. Nitto Driveline did a shoot on it. And then I went to like SEMA, and that's where it was like all displayed there. And that was the time too with like, I think Gas Monkey built a Datsun too, that was like a green one. And that was all at the same time. I was like, crazy. Hey, I was like, all the Datsuns are at the same time at the SEMA, which was pretty cool because like I feel like with the car culture world, it's like like circles, like what goes out of fashion. This is the new car, wide bodies, and then from there it goes this, and then it goes to this car and molded stuff, and then this or like flush mounted, and then it goes back to that. It's like a full circle, and it's so that was cool, like to see that other people were interested in that car and doing swaps like that, and that and just to get that recognition, the recognition to a shop, was really awesome. Like me and my brother were really proud of us, like to get to that point, and then from there, like different things started like coming about, like we started getting more obviously maybe higher end builds that started coming through the shop, like nicer stuff that like, oh wow, like we never got to work on that, or do this or do that, like and then we started tapping into like exotic cars and Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and just different stuff that we never did before, but we know we could do it, but just like nobody would maybe give us the opportunity to do it. And then and so this car like has brought me a lot of like you would say recognition to the shop, which is nice, and also like a sense of pride, that for building something like this that was nice and recognizing people love, and it was just like it's and it's hard for me like to like sell it, or like like, oh, I'm gonna sell a car, and like I can't see myself doing it. I've flipped and sold so many cars, and like, but I'm like, I don't know, like I can't see myself doing it. You know what I mean? It's like part of our history and part of like the shop, and all the memories and things that we've brought together with this. It's like I can't see myself, and I till this day I still keep adding to it, like I want to put different, like maybe Sparco is a company that we've been working with that get some new seats in there, and then AEM jumped on board and did a sponsor on the whole AEM Infinity. So before I used to be like on HP Tuners, which is like the stock ECU, and then with the standalone, I mean, it's ridiculous, and Bisimoto, he's been with, we've worked with him for years, and my brother's the one that kind of initially hit them up, like, hey, we can work and do some upholstery, and then that's how we kind of started getting into it. And he was always a tuner, and so when I told him about this build, he's like, oh yeah, I'm in it, I'll help you tune it, or kind of help me with AEM, and became partners, and we tuned got it all tuned standalone. He tuned it, and he's the one that actually nicknamed it Orange Crush, so that was like, I never had a nickname. I was like, oh, what did I call her? Like, I don't know. And he was like, Orange Crush. I was like, hey, that's stuck, Orange Crush, and it's like, it's been like a blessing to have a lot of people in the car industry to like big name people kind of recognize us or know of us now, and it's a thing that like you kind of look back and like, or somebody shouts us out, or somebody they oh, I know SOS, they built that car, or they touched it, oh, they do good work, or quality, and great builds, and so it's good to hear that from other people, and the social media that we get, like our Instagram and all that. And another thing was that when I got the car, and I was finishing up from all that popularity, I got hit up on Facebook to do this show called Hyperdrive, which is on Netflix. And so like I was like, I don't know if that was real, like what that was, and I was like, well, I don't know if what is this? I was like, oh yeah, well, I'll send you all this stuff. It's like the biggest I can put it was American Ninja Warrior, but for cars. Fast and the Furious and American Ninja Warrior mixed in all together, right? And I was like, well, that's all me, I love that. And I was like, hey, business wise, hey, that'd be good for the business, and to be on there, and by all means, I'm not like a professional race car driver, but I know my way around a car, And so I got hit up to do that, and they were like, we did Skype interviews and this, and they didn't know if I was in, and they were like, the show is gonna be like, we're gonna start doing it within a year, or like it's been in the works for like a year, but we're gonna start doing the show within a month, so we'll let you know. I was like, how are you gonna let me know? Like if I have to change something on the car, I would want to know. So it came up to the deadline of the car, of the show, and then they go, okay, you're in now. So I didn't have time to kind of like, what can I do to make it better? And it was at that point when I first had the car, it was a swap, like a Camaro swap. So it was like LS motor with the automatic. You know, either or like LS2, they also kind of came in like trucks. So it was a 5.3 motor, right? And that's what we had in there, but it had an automatic. So like, oh, you know, that's fine. I'll use it with the automatic. And that's what I did in hyperdrive. So it was automatic. I didn't have you know, to try to drift or do whatever. I had to power brake it. So it was like, I did my best I could, you know, like, so I heard people, you can't drift. And I was like, hey, I tried to power brake it and make it do all kinds. It was just fun, like the experience of doing, and Busy was my crew chief at the show, you know, so they took the car, they came a big transporter, you know, the transporter came out and got the car and picked it all up. And from there, it went to Rochester, New York. And from there, from Rochester, New York, that's where they, you know, they had it all set up. It was a Kodak Center, which was Kodak is like the big, you know, camera, you know, company. But if you can imagine, it was huge. It was like 3-4 miles square radius of it. It was huge, and so they fenced it all off and they put a bunch of like cameras and everything, LED lights, and it was all filmed at night. And so we went through, you know, we went through like trial and error, like teaching us how to drive and move the cars. And from there, you know, they kind of showed us, oh, this is how you know, this the event for this one, or this is the event for the other one. And you know, kind of, they didn't tell us what it was going to be, but they kind of, you know, so obviously we can practice and kind of know what it is about, you know. And from there, what ended up happening was, you know, obviously it was my turn, you know, to kind of go up. I saw other people go through it and go through the events and the different, you know, episodes that they were filming. And so when I was racing through the event, you know, I was like, you know, it was called the supersonic round, I guess. You know, it was like trying to go fast through the obstacle course. And it was just like crazy. You know, I went through the whole thing, went through like the big old, like it was like big old, they call it the leveler, like a catapult that would drive up and come down. And it was crazy, the craziest automotive thing you could think of, you know. And I met a lot of people there from all parts of of the world, and it was just like a good experience to do that. And it just came back to obviously the car, and you know, they wanted that car because it was like a cool car to obviously to kind of show on TV, but it was like kind of like, you know, I wouldn't have got there if all this stuff, you know, how I grew up and how I got into cars and how everything evolved, and you know, you couldn't have planned it. So it was cool, you know, and all the people that were there, like you know, different parts of the world, you know, Germany, France, you know, a bunch of people from the United States, South Africa, Brazil, you know, everywhere, you know, and till this day we still stay in contact. It was like, you know, something I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life, you know, and it's an experience that we went through was really awesome. And but yeah, I mean, all that kind of comes into play where, you know how I got to that point, you know, how all the stuff we dealt with, you know, not having a dad and my mom being like the rock of the family, to like getting a business and then growing a business, and then, you know, kind of going up, you know, making it grow, and you know, being well known now, and like to, you know, people, influencers on YouTube, like hitting us up to work on their cars, and all that is a blessing, you know, like for them to recognize us and to kind of all work together, you know, and build sick cars is our ultimate goal, you know. Going through having like a family business obviously was not all like good, and you know, always all good, you know. Obviously working with the family is tough, because obviously each person has their own way of working, their methods of working. Like my mom obviously is really strong, and she obviously has a certain way. But what was really good is that obviously she taught us and kind of gave us freedom to kind of, hey, you learn your way, you know. Obviously she would come in and correct us, hey, you need to do this or whatever, but it was always awesome for her to kind of give us that freedom of of letting us, have that freedom together and working together. Obviously, we'd get into fights of, this or that, or, that's not the right way to do it, or business stuff, or this, or, this, or whatever. It was just bickering and fighting. But at the end of the day, like, at the end of the day, we love each other, and it's a blessing to work together as a family. And it made it, I wouldn't change it, for anything, even though, like, we're getting into fights or this and that. But the beauty of it is that we'll fight, like, we'll have argument today about this and that. Next day we come back and it's like a fresh start. Like, we don't even bring that up. It's over, blah, blah, blah. Let's get on with the day. No questions, nothing. And that's where, like, a lot of people, even, like, if you're not family, friends, like, obviously you stake grudges, or like, oh, he said that to me, or blah, blah, he thinks like he's this. And with us, it's like always like a reset button at the end of the day. Like, we leave the shop stuff alone. We go hang out with each other, go have dinner with moms or whatever. And it's a beautiful thing. And growing up, here in Oceanside, like, obviously a lot of stuff leading up to my, to the shop was like, obviously the steps I went through it, and like my family. Now I have a family, and my beautiful wife Adriana, and my kids, Lily and Tino. And so I want kind of show them and instill to them what my mom taught me, or my grandpa taught me. And hopefully they like cars too. I can see my little daughter she's a little traviesa, I call her, like a little mischievous, and she kind of likes fast and do that. So I'm like, oh boy, like, and so I feel like, that'd be a blessing for them to kind of grow up and maybe loving the business and growing up and kind of taking it over. But you never know, like, they might not be into it, and you can't really force them, but it'd be a blessing. Like, my brother has daughters, and, them all coming together, and my daughter, my son, kind of growing, continuing, the business, and, letting it flourish and grow would be awesome, So I think, the whole journey of everything from, how I got into cars, and, growing up as a man, and, being more responsible, a family, all that stuff you can't go back and change. And I wouldn't change it for the world, like, because you never know, like you said, the only thing I would change about it is I shouldn't have sold my 300ZX. But everything else, you can't say you would change it, because no matter what, if you went through those bad times, or you went through good times, but obviously you went through bad times, like, maybe don't change that, because that's what makes you as a man, or makes you involved in the business, to learn from it or grow. It's you just take it in stride, and take how everything is, and don't change, don't regret it. Don't look back and say I regret it. Always live in the present, and tell your family you love them all the time, because you never know, with all this crazy stuff, COVID happening, there's too many sad stories of people not seeing them the next day or whatever. So it's a blessing to work with your family and see them all the time, and tell them that you love them, and to love what you do, as that you get up every morning and go to work and love what you do. Hey, I get up in the morning, I'm excited to go to work and see what cars we're going to work on, or hey, we got this new build coming up, or we got this new innovative thing that we're going to be working on. And I'm always thinking work. You sleep and think dream work or whatever. There's no days off for, like, businessmen, and my brother, my mom, it's always work. It's always, you have to answer a call, hey, you need to take care of this, or blah, 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 because it's your business. And that's why you care more about it, because it's your business. Like, you want it to flourish, you want it to be the best it can be. So obviously you have to put the time into it to make it that. If you don't put time to anything, a plant, if you don't water it or whatever, it's not going to grow. Or if you don't put your time into a business and really love it and grow up, then it's not going to grow. And I think me, my brother, my mom have done that, and it's good to sit, like, almost like therapy, talking about this, is to kind of put your mind at and think about, like, wow, like, all the stuff we've done, as a family together and to what we are, here doing now is a blessing, and to love what you do and work as a family, everything, it's the best. And I think that's what brings also like the community, like you said, like the car scene. The car scene community has always been like, a big ordeal, because obviously we took it as a business. Obviously, like the business of, hey, we can do, paint and body, upholstery, all this stuff, but obviously we love cars. So like going to car shows and that community of people that love cars, we all share that same interest. No matter what you are, black, white, it doesn't matter. Everybody loves cars, and we can like connect in that aspect. Like, oh yeah, Datsun. Back in my day, my grandpa had a Datsun, and I remember him racing or doing this, or that Cutlass, or whatever cars. They always have a story or a connection. Like when you bring something up, like this car. It's always like there's always a connection to the car, and I feel like with the car community, that always brings us together, because there's always an underlying story behind that, and that brings us together as a car community, but also as people, how we love cars, and how there's so much connection in those cars and what people build. Did you want to bring my brother into it? We kind of.
My name is Oscar, 30. Oh. 30 years old.
30.
Yeah, my name is Oscar, I'm 30 years old. One of the managers here at Celestres Customs, our family business. My specialty is more on the paint side, auto body and all that stuff like that. I also handle pretty much all the marketing and YouTube side of the shop as well, and kind of pretty much all the customer bills and stuff like that. The way I was brought up is mainly because of my brother. Me, to be honest, I was kind of lost, as any young kid is. My mom worked a lot. She always had 2-3 jobs, and I had my brother kind of to look up to and kind of keep me in place.
I tried.
But just. In those teenage years, you kind of go a little crazy and stuff like that. Especially, like I said, my mom worked about 2-3 jobs always, since I remember. So when my brother went to college, it was a little harder for me to kind of, be a good kid when I had no one, telling me what to do, So I always looked up to my brother. He was always, I don't know, even when he was young, he already had like a mustache. He was already like, he looked like a grown man at the age of 12. So
it didn't connect right here.
So it was very easy to look up to him, and he always took care of me, and anything I needed or something. He's always into something. He grew up like me without like a father figure. And but yet he always kind of did stuff. Like I remember when we used to live in El Centro, there wasn't a lot to do in that area, but he would go fishing, and like. I was like, how did you even learn how to do all that? But he got his own fishing pole, kind of taught himself and kind of got into it. And I would just like to go and kind of watch and stuff like that. And my brother would always kind of always help me do everything, like anything, whatever it was, or whether it was with a car, whether it was, how to tie my shoe, how to walk. He kind of taught me how to do all that stuff. So growing up, I really looked up to him a lot, all that stuff. I was kind of like, that's how I learned to do everything, and that's how we kind of got into cars. Like it was kind of more him than me. He was always into it, and I grew up in an area. Well, we grew up in an area where it was prominently like Japanese car, and like the pretty much heyday of Fast and the Furious and street racing and stuff like that. Like you know, my brother was, you know, he had at the time a pretty fast car, so he was pretty well known in the street scene in San Diego. And you know, I got, you know, everyone was like, oh, your brother has a nice car and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool, you know. Just even the attention of my brother's car, like it still got me like some notoriety, even in like in middle school. Like, oh, my brother has the Subaru, you know, which was like right there at that time was like a fast car, you know. So I like that, and I like the attention, and I like, you know, the thrill of the car and the race, you know, kind of just that thrill of the race, you know, that, you know, where you meet up. So, I mean, I'm not condoning street racing at all, but it's just like a different high, as you know, just different. You know, you get into it, and it's just like you kind of get an addiction, and so I feel like that's a better addiction that you can get into than, you know, drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. So once we got into that, I felt like it was just like, okay, this is all we're into. And so, you know, we got into, you know, the street racing, and then from there went to like Qualcomm Stadium, started doing the 8th mile. Back then, Carlsbad was still around. We do the quarter mile there for a little bit. So that was a long time ago. There was a lot of people that probably didn't even know that there was a quarter mile here in Carlsbad a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, we were always into the street scene. He started taking me to the car shows. And back then, the car shows were a lot different than what they are now, because probably because everyone didn't have cell phones. So like, you really had to interact with people. And I feel like the show scene was a little bit better back then, because everyone wasn't so judgy, and everyone wasn't like, oh, you have to have these wheels, or you have to have this, or this and that, and the paint jobs were extravagant, and the interiors were crazy. Now everyone kind of follows the same norm, and you have to be like clean, stuff like that. But it's just like a different way that we came up, you know. It's just we came up in an area where, you know, it was cool to be like, you know, obnoxiously loud with your paint job, and that was like the thing, you know. And my brother, even though we grew up in the area, he always had like a clean car, you know, nothing too crazy, nothing too showy, just always about performance with, you know, with a nice interior, nice, you know, he had like full leather interior custom that we did, and then, you know, kit, nice wheels, and a well-rounded car. And that's kind of what we've always been about, like being able to do, that's why we offer all the services that we do, because that's what we like to build, cars that are well-rounded. They're not just performance area, they're not just nice paint jobs, they're not just nice interiors, the whole car, you know. So I feel like he had a big part in how we started offering all the services, because this is stuff that he liked to do, and it's all stuff that we started doing on our own cars. You know, I remember, you know, one of my first cars was a '94 Civic hatchback, and you know, we started doing the turbocharger on the turbo kit on it. It was super cheap, eBay, all I could afford at the time. But my brother here, you know, I didn't know anything. You know, he had to tell me, oh, you have to use this and this, and he kind of over a weekend kind of showed me how to throw it all together and stuff like that. I always gravitated more towards the paint. My brother was always more about the performance and getting things running and how everything works. Like, he was able to take something apart and put it back together. Me, I kind of like, you know, giving things new color and stuff like that. So I started painting my wheels on my car. I remember that was like one of my first projects I did. I got some rattle can Krylon, painted the wheels, and then you know, we started doing stuff and, you know, painting our own cars and stuff like that. And I think I painted my friend's hatchback when I was like, I think I was like 17. It was an EF hatchback. I painted it. It actually came out pretty decently, and started painting more stuff, more things, lights. We started tinting lights and kind of messing with it. You know, we had a couple friends that were into that sort of stuff in the area. We had like we worked in off of Oceanside Boulevard. There's a lot of auto body places there, and so since we were young, they kind of liked us and like, oh, you know, this is how you do that, and it just kind of blew up. You know, pretty much us working on our cars, and then people are like, hey, you guys can do this. You know, I'm sure if you guys can do this, you can handle this car. You know, and it came from us working on, you know, our own cars. You know, to building cars that we would flip and sell, and make moves in order to get us where we are today. You know, so it's been a long time coming. I think we started like in 2007. So
Yeah, we were talking
back then, like, you know, when we would get a cool car, man, we drool over it, man. We'd be like, oh my God, look at this. I think, one of the really cool cars first that we built was like probably Siraj's M3, which was one of like the nicest cars that we did. And here I am building my own version of that, so many years later. But now it's crazy, man. When you get a nice car through the door, it's just like, wow, like who would have thought that,
We would be there.
12, 13 years ago that we'd be like, dude, this is like a norm to us. Now it's just like every car that comes in is just a nice build, and for people to see that and kind of, us be the go-to guys for that, I feel like it's so cool. It's like a dream come true, to be honest, to be able to say that's my profession, and be able to build my own cars, like starting to build my own collection, stuff like that, and having my brother kind of right there by my side and be able to do all that. It's just, I mean, like I said, it's like a dream come true. I can't imagine my life any other way. I can't imagine me doing any other job. Like I think about it like, people are like, oh, I'm working, I'm like, yeah, like, my job sucks. It's like, oh, I like coming to work. Like even me and my brother the same way. Like even on our day offs, like we implemented, because we have growing families, both of us, and even on our day offs, we're still here. Like last week I was off and I was like, hey, make sure this is happening. Because it's like, we care deeply about our clients and our business, and it's like to give that like power that we work so hard for and stuff like that. It's like super hard to not be here and be on top of everything, because no one's gonna take care of your baby like you are. So it's like that's kind of why we're so into it and stuff like that.
Before Bug that he did like blue, like you painted on and that's without a booth. We had like at the shop, like in a garage, and we were painting yeah, that custom.
Yeah, it was definitely something like, yeah, and we had plenty of mistakes throughout, to get there, and we're still not perfect, but that's what we strive for. Like, I mean, if I don't like something, like I'm very like, okay, I don't like it. If I don't like it, my client's not gonna like it. So I'm always like, and I'm super like that because, I care about the name that the work that we put out, and so I'm always I'm always my own worst critic, always, because it's like, someone's gonna see it, they're not gonna see what this car came in looking like,
No.
They're gonna see the end result, and the end result is always needs to be, perfection. I mean, there's no other way, Dude, we built like a couple years ago at SEMA. We built probably like 4 or 5 cars in a matter of like 5 weeks, and there was one of our unpolished paint jobs. I mean, because you're at SEMA, it's like SEMA is like the best of the best, and we had a car there that had not been polished. It was just straight out of the booth, and it looked great. It needed a polish, to be perfect, but. It looked amazing. The car still looked amazing, but everyone's like, oh, you guys should, it's not polished. And I was like, hey, you know what? Like,
You didn't know how to
even the car, 2 weeks ago it was in pieces, and now it's like, so it's like, there's always gonna be that side of the industry, and like I'm not really too interested in that, and there's always like the people are like, oh, you need to do it this way, or, this is the way it should be done. It's like, you know what? Obviously, people would trust us, with their vehicles, because we've been doing it for a long time, and we've been able, even in this time that we're in, we've been nonstop busy, and I mean, obviously it's for a reason, so I'm so happy that that we've been able to get all this experience, and just kind of keep up with everything, and be able to give out these type of results, because I mean, usually when people receive their car, that smile that they give you is just like, that's probably one of the most rewarding, because it's like, the cars that they just show up like so beat up sometimes, they're like, oh my God, here goes another one. And then when they're all done, it's just like, it's so nice to see them all, and people just, they, and they just almost like, it's like expected. But it still takes the same amount of work every day, so it's just like
every car you have to put like the same amount of time or love, no matter what it is, and
there's no easy job. Like
There's
people think, oh, this is pretty. Like,
well, that one's
no.
easy. The body's fine. You're like, "Pff, there's body work everywhere. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
there's
you know?
no, nothing is easy. Everything requires a certain amount of love and care and time put into it. So that's one thing I know. There's no such thing as an easy job.
And like I said, the same passion that we share for cars is the same customers that come in. So that passion that they want their cars to look nice is like the passion that we know how it feels, or to put a car out there, to for them to enjoy it. We do it, like it's our car, and then give it back to them as if it was our car. And like you said, Oscar says, like seeing that smile or that reward of them like happy, or like they have a story behind that car or whatever is a fulfillment, doing that together. And the best is doing it together as family,
Yeah. No, just thank you. Just a huge shout out to anybody that's ever worked with us, or said something good or even bad, because we take it all with the good and the bad. Like even if we had a bad experience with somebody, it was a learning experience, because that teaches you what not to do and how we can get better, and how it teaches you how certain people are. You know what I mean? Like one thing that it's like I feel like and this is probably a lot of shop owners can attest to this. There's always those people that are gonna give me the homie hookup and this and that, and I feel like sometimes they kind of expect more for less, but it still takes the same amount of work. And so I think the one thing I could tell other shop owners, or inspiring shop owners, or people that are just in the industry, to not to devalue yourself, and to hold yourself to a high standard, and not so much about the discount, but about the job, and doing the best job that you can, no matter what. Whether it's that you're willing to take a lower price for a job. Like that's one thing that we struggled with a lot in the beginning, and I think that kind of held us back a lot, is that trying to hook everybody up. Here we are, oh, this is my homie, but at the end of the day, a homie hookup doesn't pay the bills, and so here you are trying to make it work on the budget that they have, but at the same time, like financially, it doesn't make sense, because you have to pay your materials, you got to pay, or your shop, and like the guys, and if you have other employees or whatever. And at the end of the day, unless it's like perfect, I mean, they know that you do good work, so they're expecting perfect work. But if you're trying to do something quick, it just never happens. You have to take each job like it's a high-paying customer, because that's the only way to get high-end results, to take your time and use good materials. And that's one thing I could say is like initially we always try to do that, and now that we kind of gotten away from that and just stick to the quality over everything, quality over quantity, I feel like every job that we're doing is perfect, it's just that, being able to charge for a great job. I mean, there's a reason why it's expensive, because it's more time, and more and better materials, and so on and so forth. So I've learned that for sure, is that to have a high value for yourself, and this, it could relate to any industry, whether you do videos and stuff like that. I mean, your time is worth something. Or if you're in construction, like your time is it's like that for everything. So there's good people and bad people in every industry, and I feel like everyone is capable of being great. It's just if you're willing to hold yourself to that standard, and I mean, in order to do that, you have to chop your arm and leg sometimes, because that's what people expect no matter what. People are gonna want something perfect, want something for nothing, and I feel like it's just the faster you learn that, the faster that you can become successful. And obviously doing it because you love it. Because if you don't love your job, like it
makes it harder.
Your life's not gonna get any easier. You gotta love what you're doing, because no matter what, you do get paid at the end of the day. If you're happy with what you're doing, really does not always about the money and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I can say for anybody that's watching that, because I always get that question, how did you guys, like, how'd you guys get to where you're at and stuff like that. It's just like one thing that, did help out was, helping friends out and stuff like that. But
in order to stay in business, you always have to, you know, do good work and
Bring your name out there and know that
Yeah.
you do good work. You know?
yeah, concentrate on the quality. Quality is everything. You know, if you can, you know, get those 100% quality jobs, it's going to be hard to move forward because there's so many people. There's so many people in this world that want to do it. You know, so it's up to you. You know, to do the best job that you can. To, you know, to keep your name and your word. So.
Like I said, the support, we appreciate all the support that we get from everybody, good and bad. Here at SOS Customs,
We got you covered.